What horrible, ridiculous names have you heard parents choose to call their children? Baby girl. Yes, this was their legal name. I worked with someone named Baby. Before I knew of her, I saw an email that started with "Hey baby." She and I were on the same email distribution list, and I thought, I guess this guy didn't do the mandatory annual anti-sexual harassment training. I couldn't believe it when I realized that was her actual name. My neighbor was the 12th kid. His parents named him 12er. That's gotta be the worst I've ever seen. So quick fun history fact. In the days of the American Revolution, like that era, this was a fairly common practice. BC kids died so easily. Parents did one of two things. The first one was the one you mentioned, where they just kinda assigned the kid a number. The second thing they did is that if they named their child Amanda, and Amanda died, they would just give that name to the next child that popped out. So you'd have two siblings named Amanda. The oldest one would be dead and the youngest would take the name. Sorta just like replacing it. Nevi. It's heaven backwards. Anyone that tells you their daughter is named Nevi will also tell you that it's heaven spelled backwards. Every time. My niece is named Nevi and you are absolutely right that her parents tell everyone that it is heaven spelled backwards. It is like that have the compulsion to justify naming their child Nevi. On a side note, no one calls her Nevi. We call her Squish. Not sure which is worse. I once encountered a plump young woman whose name, according to her ID, was Rotunda. I work at a college and often go through the new applications to process them. I've seen all kinds. Most ridiculous name I've seen thus far though, Starscream Anakin as his first and middle names. He has a normal last name. When I first saw it, I was certain that it was a kid effing with our application system. Then I met him in person, and he showed me his ID. His name is legally Starscream Anakin. I get the Anakin part, but of all the Transformers to name your kid after, why on earth make it Starscream? He was just awful. I work with a couple that named their son Anakin Sky. I've worked with them for months and just put it together that their last name is Walker. Anakin Skywalker. Their 16-year-old daughter is named Isis. Pretty name but did not age well in the US. When I was pregnant, my now ex-mill wanted me to name our son Rock, which is stupid as it is, but the last name is Bowler, so my son's name would be Rock Bowler, and I couldn't do that to the poor kid. My ex thought it would be funny to name him Rocky with the middle name Bal, so his name would be Rocky Balboa. I think Rocky Balboa is hilarious. Cruel? Yes. Hilarious? God yes. I went to high school with a guy named Zip Dorb. His middle name was Adido. They named that moth a fair Zip Adido Dorb. Had a little boy in my program named Rowdy. Kind of rednecky but whatever. Then I found out his older brother is named Howdy. WTF? Found out later that the older boy's legal name is Howard. That's less ridiculous, at least. I went to high school with a guy named John. Yes, his first name, middle name and last name were all John. Update. Thanks for the silver. This was not in Texas, BC or Ohio. So there are at least several parents who inflicted the same name on their kids. He was a nice enough guy and owned it. He did sometimes sign his name John 3. Had a boy in our school named Avante. Pronounced Avant. Mother insisted the accent made the E silent. She would come completely unglued when anyone said his name wrong. Lady, that's Avante. Update. I have no idea why she didn't just leave off the E altogether. The sad thing is, she really thought it would make it silent. She was really angry about it. If she were a nicer person I would have felt sorry for her, as I'm sure no one really challenged it until he got to school and people saw it written versus just hearing it. It got to be where after pre-K we'd warn each teacher about how to pronounce it, so spare them the wrath and the incorrect grammar lesson from mom, but no one could help it. My mother is a genealogist and discovered that my great something grandparents were named Lettuce and Nimrod. A power couple. I spoke with my mom and she said that her name was Lettuce with an I, so y'all were right. And it probably wasn't pronounced lettuce like I imagined, but rather Letitia or something. They were married around the 1840s. The joys of genealogy. Well, let's just say that the state I live in doesn't have a significant English speaking population, especially in the rural regions, despite the official language of the country, India, being English and most of the urban population being educated. However, I have friends whose parents gave them names like Benadryl, Goodbye. Very helpful and the absolute worst dishwasher. This, however, is because people from the rural regions, especially in the northeast, come to the cities and see words and ads and billboards that they find pretty and innocently name their children after a variety of brands. I don't always blame them. I had a family friend who came off as very posh and educated, spoke perfect English, but named his daughter Darth Vader. Some of them are just trolling. Do not underestimate people of the hills. They don't take your bullsh, educated or otherwise. The kid's name was William. Unfortunately for the kid, he had a nickname that was spelled Liam. That doesn't sound so bad until you hear the pronunciation. Yum, like William. They called their child Yum and spelled it Liam. No teacher in my classes with him could ever say his name correctly, so he eventually gave up and we all called him the normal sounding Liam. Some friends of mine in high school knew a girl named Cash Money. Met her once and she said her name with some made up accent. One recently I ran into was K Danes. OK Arthur Doke, we called him OK. He was the youngest of 5 kids. Fancy, named after the Reba song, and her sister Truly, named after Truly Scrumptious from Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. Secret Love, she was a kid my mom met when my mom worked at a pediatrician's office. Secret Love's mom laid out the whole story to my mom about the name. My favorite I saw while working as a banker was Subway Club Alaris Supreme middle name, last name. His parents named him this and he wanted a loan to open a weed store in a state where it is illegal. To clarify, his middle name is middle name. I forgot the last name, but it was just a normal last name. Met a kid named Bo once. Learned later he had a twin brother named Arrow. Heard a lady yell at her kid, "Graceland, Tennessee, stop running around." I went to high school with Abt, Princess, Sweetheart, Destiny, Styles, Crescent Moon, Ryan. Not all the same time with the great shift in high schools. Yeah, I also know a kid named Rocket, but I think that's kinda cool. And hired someone named Candy Bar. A girl I went to high school with was named Martini and her last name was Pitts. She also had a brother named Harold. Guess what they called him? I went to school with a Harry Butts. His parents were exactly what you'd expect as someone who named their kid that. My mom's friend named her son Zachary, but instead it was spelled Zachary. My mom's class had a 5-year-old girl named Trinket. What kind of shy parent do you have to be to name your child after a small item of little to no value? Squire Sebastian Senator was pretty bad. I knew a dude named K-Ron. My personal least favorite for girls is Paisley. It sounds dumb and it's an ugly print. Went to grad school with a bunch of Chinese international students. One was a guy named Jason Wang. No big deal on that name, but his girlfriend's name was Wanting Guo. I was ready to pay for their wedding if she took his last name. I can only imagine the look on someone's face getting a resume with the applicant's name, Wanting Wang. I still remember this episode of Maury where the mom introduced the baby and his name was Kevin, but it was spelled with a QU at the start instead of a K. A bunch of silent consonants and I swear I saw a 7 in there. It was a nightmare. My sister met some kids in an international airport named Yellow, Flash, and No Exit. My sister asked No Exit why his mom picked that name. He said when she couldn't think of anything else she saw a No Exit sign from her maternity bed and settled on that. Went to school with a guy named Dude. He was named after his granddad. There was a college football quarterback in Missouri whose first name was Cocaine, named after his granddad. I worked with a lady named Crystal Wineglass. My dad wanted to name my little brother My Kid, with his middle name as Rules, so his full name would be My Kid Rules, our last name. My mom stopped him though, lol. One of my co-workers' last name is Rising. Please welcome to the world his baby daughter Valkyrie Rising. I'll admit, it's fine cool. I don't recall the middle name, but it was normal like Renee or something.